So the previous examples that we worked out utilized the manual way of showing all 5 steps in conducting hypothesis testing. That is called the critical t-value method. Now I'm going to show you how to do these 3 problems over again, but this time using our calculator. The method by using our calculator to do these hypothesis tests is called the p-value method. P-value method. When you conduct a hypothesis test, inevitably will always be computed a p-value. A p-value is a probability. In fact, it's a conditional probability. The p-value method utilizes this conditional probability to make a decision as to whether we're able to reject or not reject our null hypothesis statement. A p-value, like I said, is a conditional probability. Basically, it's the probability that says, given that our null hypothesis is true, what is the probability of obtaining a test statistic value as extreme or more extreme than the one we've actually obtained from the sample chosen from the parent population? That sounds rather complicated, but what we really need to remember, the important thing we need to remember when we conduct hypothesis testing using technology, when our p-value is reported, is this. If, ladies and gentlemen, your p-value is less than your level of significance alpha, if this is the case, then we always reject the null hypothesis. And therefore, we would accept the alternative hypothesis statement. If the p-value is greater than our level of significance that we're testing at, then, in this case, we do not reject the null hypothesis. I have a way that is even easier to remember this, ladies and gentlemen. I've come up with this little rhyming saying here. For p small, reject the null. So for p small, reject the null hypothesis. Okay, for p small, reject the null. So the smaller your p-value is, the stronger evidence there is to suggest that we're going to reject the null hypothesis, and we're therefore going to go with the alternative statement as being the truthful statement. Okay, so whenever you use statistical software or you use a calculator to do hypothesis testing, it's not going to compute your critical t-values. It's going to compute what's called a p-value. And for that reason, we call this the p-value method, not the critical value method. Okay. So now we'll begin to look at how to do these problems over again using our calculator.